podcast called Jellison podcast.
First ever type 1 diabetic in UFC history.
Doing fine, Dub. Nice to be with you.
Get out!
He's like, yeah. My tunnel vision and my periphery, I'm like all field.
Hey, you know how it is, though. Hey, when your team.
I don't remember that. That's crazy.
What's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of the Jellison podcast, and they have a very special guest, Mrs. Courtney Moses Delks. Almost messed that up. But hi, Courtney. How are you?
Hey, Del, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your podcast. I love what you've been doing and everybody you've been having on, so I appreciate you taking the time to have me on.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, thank you so much for coming on. I love what you and Jordan are doing as well. I know this past weekend we unfortunately weren't able to meet up at the TBT, but how'd you guys enjoy that with the family?
Oh, that was awesome. What a great experience that is for the players. Just kind of bringing everybody out. I thought that Ohio State did a wonderful job hosting it. The environment, they had it in the Covelli Center, and it was a smaller environment, and it got my juices flowing. I was ready to just that feel. It just had that feel. It was good out there, and it was a great time. We took Jordan and I, and then we took our kids with us, and we all went. We stayed the whole weekend, and it was just a fun weekend of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have said it better myself. They did a really good job hosting it. What was it like obviously you played at Purdue, seeing former players like obviously Lou Jack, who you know very well, and Rob and Kelsey. What was it like to kind of see them represent Purdue again?
It was awesome. Lou Jack moved up to our area in Marion in February. And when he moved up here, he's been training with Jordan, and I've been helping out a little bit as well. And the goal was we're going to prepare for your coming back and you're going to play in the TBT. And so it was kind of, he hadn't played in 3 years. So when he got here in February, to see his progress from February to when he took the floor was unbelievable. And I mean, you can see behind, this is where Lou Jack's been training at literally for 6 months in a barn in the middle of Indiana for that moment. And so it was just unbelievable experience.
I mean, you can say this because both of us are fairly close to Lou, but was he like in real bad shape when he first got there in terms of basketball, just like trying to get back into things and get into the flow of it?
He wasn't terribly. I mean, basketball shape is completely different. Like growing up, I was a really good soccer player, really good cross country runner, but I would go from those seasons, which is high cardio, to basketball and still be like, it takes you a few games to get underneath yourself of basketball shape. So when any hooper that's listening knows, like, you just got to play to get in shape and you got to just get into it. So when you first starting out, like, yes, he had some cardio to work on, but he caught right on real quick with the program. We had him work with our strength coach, and he caught on really quick and did really well. And you could tell on the court just how explosive he was and how he was able just to, he still has a motor, very high motor. And that showed at the TBT. Yeah, for sure.
How nice is it to have someone like him in the gym that's kind of been there, done that, is a vet in terms of basketball and can mentor some of the younger guys and younger gals that you guys bring in as well?
Oh, it's huge. I have a good podcast where people tell stories. I have a good story. So there's a young man, I would say. He's a high schooler, highly rated shooter out of Marion. And so Lou was here and they're all trained together. And Lou asked him what the score was. And the kid froze and he couldn't tell him what the score was. And so Lou's like, "Bro, what's the score?" And he just froze and he didn't say anything. So Lou he's like, all right, like he knew like it was a moment he needed to teach him. And he's like, he starts going, "Man, what is the score? You have to know what the score is." And the kid like was on the verge of tears. And he's like, "I don't know what the score is." And so Lou just like had the opportunity to say, "You always got to know what the score is." And just just went ham on him. And so like, that's around the barn now. We always like, that's just a phrase now. We say, "What's the score? You got to know what the score is." Cause it was like if you're just there in that moment, it was like Lou and the kid were just face to face, and Lou was just giving it to him like, "You got to know what the score is. You're a guard." Like, and he just went and it was priceless. But from that moment on, I mean, the kid is never like, we ask him, hey, what's the score? He's going to tell us every time now. And that is so crucial. Just those little things, like you got no time, you got no score at all times of the game, because that's crucial. So it's been huge. And Lewis has been just a great role model to all these kids, and just mentoring them on just the little things that can make a big difference, like knowing the score.
I mean, I can just picture Lou saying that. Like, I feel like I was there, because, I mean, when I was working Rayfell's camp and Lou was there, some kid was getting chippy, and Lou laid into him too. And it was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, just because I'd known Lou for a month at that point. I didn't think that he would get so riled up, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. He's a great role model. He's someone that I look up to personally. But I mean, there's also other players that Jordan trains and you yourself train, like Kyle Menges, who's also on the TBT team, and Travion as well. So when those guys get those big opportunities, like Menges and Travion, they both had to work out with the Pacers. How does that, like, how special is that feeling to know that you guys helped contribute to that?
That's why we do what we do. We want those guys, whenever we have a player come and train with us, the first thing we ask is, what do you want? Like, what is your vision? And we work on their mindset of, you have everything inside of you to accomplish what you want. We're going to help you bring that out. And so sometimes, players get roadblocks. And so we help them to remove those roadblocks and, like, let's keep going. So to see like a Travion and a Kyle, like, that is, they want to, get their shot at trying out for the NBA. So it's almost like being a proud parent. Like, they're putting in the work, and we're just there to help push them and to pull out inside of them that you have what it takes to play. It's all in your mind. And, like, we're going to bust you, and we're going to push you to limits that you didn't know you could go. And then when they get into those workouts, like, they've been there before. Like, this is like, we want those workouts to be easy for them because they've been pushed so hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Did you and Jordan always know that you kind of wanted to do something like a mix of coaching and training?
Yeah, ever since we were both. So I grew up in Sweetser, Indiana, went to Oak Hill High School. He grew up an hour away. He grew up in, like, Lafayette, West Lafayette area, and then ended up graduating from Rossville High School. So, but we didn't know each other, never met each other till we met my sophomore year at Purdue, his senior year. But when we were little, like, when we look back and we look at, things we were doodling when you're in elementary school, like, we always, like, we would draw a barn. Both of us didn't know each other, and we would have barns drawn with courts in them. And so, like, it was to be sitting here and, like, to have the caliber of players that are coming, and people are coming from all over the state. They're flying in from all over the country to come train at the barn is, God can do immeasurably more than we ever ask or imagine. So, like, we're just extremely humbled and blessed. So yeah, it was always something that was in us. Now to see it like it's like it's happening. It's just very grateful and thankful.
I mean, that's super special. And especially your guys' dynamic with your family and you guys' relationship. You guys are like the dynamic duo. Honestly.
Yeah, and there's certain things. We had opportunities to, go coach at different places all around the country. And our values, we really value family. And so this business that we do and training allows us the flexibility to be, to be great husband and wife to each other, and to be great parents to our two kids, and to spend time. And it gives us flexibility where we can have, like, we want to go to Columbus for the weekend and go watch the guys have been training. We're not reporting to a schedule of somebody else that's telling us we got to go do something.
Yeah.
So that makes it nice.
I told Jordan this the other day, but, like, the barn and what you guys are doing, it encapsulates basketball in Indiana to a T. Do you have you noticed that, or do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, like tonight, I had a girl here from Huntington, high school girl. So she was here from 8 to 9, and We had the barn doors open and the sun. I mean, just a beautiful July Indiana sunset. The back doors are open. She's in here. There's no air. She's in here just sweating. We have to take drink breaks like every 10 minutes because it's not air conditioned. But she's just getting after it. And like just the energy, like there's just energy from that. It wasn't, I mean, a lot of people, you know, you don't need the fancy facility where you just need a place where you just go grind it out. And that's Indiana basketball at its finest. Just find a place and let's go hoop and go play.
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually, I found this out when I was doing a little bit of research, but Ashlyn Shade, who's from my hometown in Noblesville, I know has come up there a few times, right? How's she?
Yeah. So the first time I ever trained Ashlyn, the first time I ever trained Ashlyn was at Indiana Wesleyan University. Jordan was working at the university and coaching, and her dad played basketball there. And so one of Jordan's jobs was to connect students with employers. So her dad owns a business. So he was up, they were doing some business stuff. And Matt, her dad, said, hey, my daughter, she really loves basketball. Do you think that Courtney would, you know, show her some things she could work on ball handling wise or get in the gym with her and work on shooting? And the gym was being full. So I was like, yeah, like we can do ball handling. We're going to have to do it outside. And it was super hot day. And we were on the sidewalks of Indiana Wesleyan. I'm not kidding. The girl was drenched in sweat and like just going so hard and so focused. And she was in 6th grade. And I told Jordan after, I said, that girl has it. I said, I'm getting chills right now. I said, she is going to be special. Then the following year, we had a 3-on-3 tournament in our barn. And she brought a team up from Noblesville area. And we didn't have enough girls teams, so they played in the boys league 3-on-3 tournament. And they won the whole thing. And there's a pretty good local like group of boys. Like that one of them is getting recruited by D1 schools now. He was on that team, and like the girls just gave it, and Ashlyn just tore them up. So that was like one of her first experiences in the barn. And like from that, like she just from 6th, 7th grade, you see her, and she just has continued to elevate her game. And she's came back. She's done a lot of individuals here with me. We had a 3-on-3 league where we had like a bunch of college players, former pro players that she came. We invited a few high schools. She was one of them that we invited to come play. And like the girl just wants it. And like she like, yeah. So I love Ashlyn. She's awesome. So she everything that's coming her way right now is well deserved.
Mm-hmm. I saw that you just got an offer from UConn, which I mean, not a whole lot of people from Noblesville are like highly touted like that. So it's awesome to see someone in my community doing such great things already. And she's only what, 16, 17?
Yeah.
That's
Just turned 17, yeah. Hey, you got the home of David Budaya. Come on, Mr. Olympian. Wasn't he from Noblesville?
He's actually from down the street.
Okay.
He used to live on my street. But yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, aside from him. But when you're training, especially the girls, how do you use your own experience as a player and all the things you've been through in your career? How do you use that to give them guidance?
Yeah, like I said, when they first come, it's setting a vision. So in Proverbs, it talks about where there's no vision, the people perish. So that was one thing that I always do is sit down and, okay, where am I going? And you got to believe it. So mentally, like you got to get your mind to that place, and then your habits and your body's going to fall behind is what I always tell them. And that was something that in my career that I always did. And I still do that today in a different, realm setting. Okay, vision, marriage or family or parenting and business, like things like that. But and then it's just the main thing I try to instill in players is just this compete mentality of you just have to keep going. Like when things get tough, and so just putting them through once they get to a certain point in training where we've fixed the mechanics, we want to fix on their shot or something, we just put them through really tough drills where they have a target. Maybe they're supposed to make this number of shots in 4 minutes and they're doing a certain drill. And so it gives them something to chase after. And, if you're in the middle of the drill and you're not doing well and you're not shooting well, that can happen in a game. So you can't always control how you're like what's happening, but you can control how you react. And so I always talk to them, like I'll put them in tough situations when things aren't going well, how are you reacting? Because other teams are going to feed off that. If you're down, your teammates are going to feed off it. And that is one thing. Like, you just have to be so poised as a basketball player, and you just have to keep going. And so that's one thing. And just I think, get the lights. Yeah, we're back on. They're on a timer. And the other thing is just, trying to help, just always being, one of my favorite things at the beginning, the workout, when the kids are in, getting the shoes on, hanging out, I can just connect and talk with them. And afterward, just being around, not being in a rush, not being hurried to get to the next thing, because that's really when the conversations are going to come. They might ask you a question. And so just always he's always got to be available, because it's what I've found. The players are going to ask you a question about something when you least expect it. In the middle of the workout, that they're so focused on what you're doing with them that it's going to come before or after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes when you're in those hard workouts and things aren't going your way, you don't want to hear anything from what your coach is saying. Sometimes, like, I had one of my favorite coaches I've ever had is Coach Brian Clark. Shout out to him. He always said, "I love you when you walk in. I love you when you walk out. In between, you might not feel it, but it's still there." And I feel like that's kind of the same way that you're saying as well.
Yeah. Coach V, I would have meetings with her in her office, and she would tell me, I remember her saying to me, there's going to be practices when you're going to be like having one of the best practices of your life, but I'm going to make you feel like you're having the worst practice, because I'm going to be riding you and on you, because I'm going to be acting like I'm that other team getting after you, and she said, I'm just going to be on you. Just, and she said, you have to stay mentally tough, and you have to stay poised, and you have to keep pushing, because I'm going to pull out of you places you don't even know that you're capable of going. So she said, you're going to be having a great practice, and she's like, but I'm going to just ride you and keep pushing you. And that's what, so Coach V has really, and when I'm training players, I've learned a lot from her of when you have an Ashland Shade, or you have a high caliber player who's in the gym with you, how can I push them even further? And obviously you got to have that trust with the player too. You can't just the first time somebody comes in here, unless they're absolutely, like a WNBA or a really high caliber Division I that can handle it. But a high school kid, you're probably not going to get after them that hard, but you got to build that relationship with them before you would actually do that.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. So I wanted to kind of transition to your journey in basketball, coming up through elementary, middle, and high school. How do you look back on all the massive success that you had, especially in high school?
Yeah, I look back and smile. It was a blast. And I know, I can tip my hat off and say that I did everything that I was capable of to be the best player that I could. I felt I'm even now today, I'm still learning, learning things about the game and how to train to help players and stuff. That I'm man, I wish I would have known that when I was little. I just didn't. But with what I did know, I maximized what I could do. And it was a fun ride. So I know you said high school, but I think back to the YMCA when I'm 4. I can still, the smell of going to the top level of the Grant County YMCA and smelling the chlorine that's rising up from the pool, and then playing, going down to Indiana Basketball Academy with my AAU team and playing in the boys league and playing against the Carmel Pups. I remember they always had 400 teams in that league, and playing playing well against the boys teams, and then playing in the local boys league. I think to the playground, honestly, too. I couldn't wait till recess and go out, and I would go out and I had a group. I'd play with the guys, and we would just battle it out. And that's where I think competitiveness, you gain that when you're, it's just a love for the game. And then transition on to high school. We lost 71-62 my freshman year, overtime game to Jimtown. And I really think that year that was probably the best team that we had in high school. And we were legit 10 deep, complete, to have 10 players, any of us out on the court. And we didn't miss a beat. And then my sophomore and junior year, we lost in state finals to Heritage Christian, to Kelly Ferris, Claire Freeman was on that team, Liz Stratman, the Anderson twins, Casey Jones. So they just had, they had a squad. Kelly Ferris, she won 4 state championships in high school in a row, and then 4 national championships. So she went 8 years in a row winning a championship, and then went on the WNBA. So they were good. And my junior year, we lost on the last second shot in overtime, 60-58. Still can see it. And then senior year, we were just we were decent, but we lost in I think first or second round of regional. But we had a lot of fun, and the best thing was it was legit small town college basketball or small town high school Indiana basketball, that our games were sold out, and we had more fans that came to our games than our boys team did. And anywhere we would go, a lot of the gyms were getting sold out. And we just had such great chemistry. And so, it was an absolute blast. Our student section was lit. It was amazing every night. And it was, I couldn't have asked for a better high school. it was unbelievable.
And then obviously to cap off your high school career, how special was it to, going back to when you're 4 years old, the YMCA, and going through this journey, how special was it to be named Indiana Miss Basketball that year?
Very, very humbling. A lot of we kind of do mindset training with a lot of the kids, like I've talked about a lot on here. And when I was in 7th grade, I knew I was one of the top players in the state in our class, going around the country. Knew I was playing AAU, was one of the top players in the country. And so I was I knew that was probably, but you got it. Like I said, you mentally have to go there, but then you got to put in the work. So I had in my closet a mirror, and it said on there, Indiana Miss Basketball 2010 ? So every morning I open it up, and I got to look myself, have I done what I need to do today to get that done? And I had a list as well of all the former, so Miss Basketballs on a paper, and then it had 2010 and it just had a blank. So having visual things throughout, but that just kind of fueled my training. It wasn't if I don't get this, it's the end of the world. No, it was just, it helped. And even I talked about these losses in the state championships, those fueled. I can name off the scores, because when we would lose, I would take the paper, the newspaper, and I'd post it on I would tape it onto my my bedroom door, so I would see it every morning when I walk in and out of my room, and I would just, it would fuel, and it's a loss, and it's those moments that project you forward. So no, it's a long answer, but that's what, when I think about that, it's not that that was just the icing on the cake. I look at the journey to get there, and a very grateful, when you're named Miss Basketball, that can't be taken away. So for the rest of your life, you're in that class of, you can look back to, I think Coach V was 1984, Miss Basketball 99 is April McDivitt. You can just go through, and your name is always in that group of Miss Basketball. So definitely a very honor. But for when you're in the moment, you just you think back to the journey and of getting there. So.
Mm-hmm. And then following that, obviously, you ended up going to Purdue. So talk about that recruiting process, and what stood out about Purdue that made you know that they were the right fit.
Yeah. So growing up, I was kind of University of Tennessee, Lady Vol, everything, as every other girl in America kind of was during the Pat Summitt era. Shira Eli, who played at Ben Davis, was down there. Shauna Zolman, who played at Wawasee, was down there. And Shauna Zolman was kind of that player that I really looked up to. And so I didn't really start we grew up a little bit away from an hour and a half from Purdue, but my parents went to Marion High School, and that was the era when like Jay Edwards and James Blackman and all those guys were there. And obviously Jay went to IU. That was when IU was really guys basketball was good. So like growing up, like at home, like my first day of kindergarten, I wore an Indiana. I know this is like gonna make me puke to even say it, but I wore an IU jersey and shorts, like legit. And I had a Pacers backpack. It's like we have a picture. And so like. And then Jared Odell went to my high school. I'm in second grade. Jared Odell is in the stud on the boys basketball team. He goes to IU. So like our community was kind of like, so like growing up, to be honest, like it wasn't like this. I always dreamed of going to Purdue. Like I knew that they were good. I knew like I would watch Stephanie White when she played for the Fever. I had her Fever jersey. I knew she played at Purdue. And one of my good friends, her dad was a walk-on Purdue football team. Mom was a walk-on the track team. I can remember they invited me. I went to a football game with them. And I'm like, all right, it was the first time on Purdue campus. So that was the first time there. And then started getting recruit mail. And like, I went to elite camp there. And it's one of those, what is the little phrase now? Is it IYKYK? If you know, you know. Is that what everybody says now?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, like, and to everybody who's listening who, like, you've stepped on Purdue's campus and, like, you just know, like, and just the feel, the family. And so when I went to elite camp and saw the level of basketball, the history of the women's team, was around Coach V and around all the coaches, around all the players, I was like, this is incredible. Like, this is it. This is some like place where I can see myself coming and playing. And yeah, so it was really when I went to that elite camp, I was like, this is it. Like, I just used how that feel. And I still, when I go back to campus now, I still feel like that. I don't know how old I was, maybe 14, 15 when I went to elite camp. I still feel like that 14 or 15-year-old when the first time I stepped on campus, and it's like, like, still get that feeling when I go back to today. So, yeah, just the recruiting process. Like Coach V is like, she was over a few weeks ago. Just came over to get lunch, just catch up with the family, and she is the most genuine and honest, and just tell you straight up how it is. And I appreciated that, because I had throughout the recruiting process, you have to be leery because you'll have people that'll kind of, if they're painting this picture and they're promising you this and that, you're going to start and all this. Like, I don't want you to promise that. Like, I want somebody, and Coach V said, I'm not going to promise you anything. You got to come here and earn everything. And I'm like, sign me up. Like, that's what I want to hear. Like, let's get to work. Yeah. And that was the best decision to go there, hands down. So I absolutely love my experience and proud to be a Boiler alum.
Mm-hmm. And similarly to you, I had Katie Geralds on the podcast a couple months ago, and she dreamed of going to Tennessee, and she got an offer from Purdue like a week before, and then she goes down to Tennessee and she gets the offer, and she's like, I don't even want to go here anymore. I like Purdue so much. And I think I don't know what the heck's in the air up there, but there's something going on. It makes people feel some type of way. Yeah, I mean, every time I have a Purdue guest on, we always end up talking about the Purdue family culture. I mean, how real is that for you?
Absolutely real. I can, you talk to any Boiler alum, you see anybody. I can remember like when we'd go on like our foreign tour. So like we'd be over in Europe during the fall. We went and did a tour, and like being in shops, and like we would run into like Purdue people who like lived over there, and they're like, oh, and it's like you just like run into people everywhere. And then I know anytime I can call Coach V, I can call any of my former assistants, and I can call any of my former teammates. I can call people from other sports or friends or just call people, and they're legit. They care about you. It's not just you're not just another person that they're just passing through. Like they care about you. And then for us, I mean, the family culture. So Jordan's grandpa, he was valedictorian at his high school in Hawaii. So he's Chinese Hawaiian. It was kind of there was a lot of racism stuff going on, and there was only 2 schools so he was valedictorian's class that let him in for engineering, and Purdue was one of them. So the story goes, he took a boat from Hawaii to California to the mainland, a train from California to Indiana, got dropped off from Cary Quad, and got his engineering degree from Purdue. And then Jordan's, hold up, got it. And then Jordan's mom and dad, so his mom followed in her dad's footsteps, goes to Purdue, meets Jordan's dad, so they met at Purdue. They had a class called Family Processes together. Took that class together. We went to campus house, got married, and then Jordan and I met at Purdue. Took Family Processes. That was one of the classes that we had together, and like we would sit by each other a lot and stuff. And so it's just like, yes, the like big family, but even like when you get down into the family history of Jordan and I, and Jordan's dad has worked in the College of Animal Science, in the College of Ag for over 30 years. His mom works at Purdue, so it's just like it's real family. Yeah.
I mean, and you're passing that down now. Like, I texted you on Thursday. Literally, the first thing you said to me was "Boilers support other Boilers," and I was like, "All right, she gets it. This one's gonna be good."
Yeah. Yes.
And when you're looking back on that time at Purdue and the success that you guys had, winning 2 Big Ten championships, how do you look back on it and reflect on it?
On the championships?
Just your whole career at Purdue.
Whole career at Purdue. Man. Same thing I said about how, like, I smile because I think back to the empty Mackey arenas, the empty Cardinal courts. I think back to the co-rec outdoor court when all the renovations were going on, being out there with KK and DD doing our summer workouts and sweating, and just grinding it out. I think back to just being, when you're you're 18 and 22, you're a kid at the same time. Like so I remember like we went to like, it's gonna be weird, but we went to like this, all of our team, we went to like this huge, like there's like this big Purdue pillow fight, like where everybody met, and like literally like people, like all kinds of people, just run around just jacking people with pillows. But like those are like things I think back to 6 a.m. workouts. I think back to just traveling. I think back to the people, like I just think back to moments and memories. And then the championships are a byproduct of the grind. But it's the investment into, I see faces when I look back. I see Coach V, I see Coach Figs, I see Coach Morgan, Coach Wiz, Coach Smith, I see KK, I see Brittany, I see Dre, I see Alex, I see Sam, I see, Net, I see Chantel, I see, just all the faces. I see Sam Woods having us all over to her apartment for spaghetti nights, like taking care of everybody. And I just like that family, like you said, I see, DD, like I'm trying to, people listening, I'm not naming anybody, trying to think through everybody. Lisa, Tori, Hayden, April. So, but those are like that. I see faces when I think back.
Mm-hmm. Are there
Coach
any?
Speck, yeah.
Any more?
Yes. Yeah. I can't. I'm about to say everybody. I'm gonna get Chelsea. Everybody. So.
Are there any games from a personal level that stick out the most memorable for you?
I would say senior night in Mackey was special. It was one of those where, as a shooter and as a player, you get into, people say like the zone where like you just feel like you can't miss, and you feel like almost like an alpha, like on the court, like that nobody can guard you. And I was in that cloud, like I was in that moment, that game, and also the game, the NCAA tournament game in Mackey, right, against South Dakota State, hitting 9 threes, NCAA tournament record. Like that was another, just in that moment. so those, and then like as from a team standpoint, like I think back to we always battled out with like Penn State. Shout out Maggie Lucas was like we always battled out, and I can remember beating them at Penn State, and like she didn't come through and shake our hands, and she just like walked off the corner, the opposite side to go to their locker room, and like she was just so mad. And so in our locker room, like during film session, I don't know how many times we just watched her just walking off the corner. But they had a solid team. That was who it always came down to us and them for the big, like the regular season championship. And then we always just battle in Nebraska too. I mean, we went to so many overtime games with them. So there's so many I could sit here like and just talk for a whole hour about all the different stories of games, but those are some that kind of stand out.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And then before we go here, obviously Coach V, following this upcoming season, she's going to be leaving the program, and Coach Katie Gerald is going to be stepping in. So, I mean, when you found out that was going to be happening, what kind of went through your mind? Like, what do you think about the whole transition period, I guess?
Yeah, what went through my mind was, yeah, it's going to be KG. Like when I was there, she was the alum who was back the most. I mean, just she's back working camp. She's working Matt Painter's camp. She's working Coach V's camp, and she was just always around. And she just, is a competitive dog. Like her competitive spirit is kind of unmatched. Like, and that's, she's somebody like everybody listen, like if you want to have somebody be able to take you to push you to new heights and new limits you even know, like Katie Gerald will help you do that. And she's played at every level. She knows what it takes. And she's somebody I want to go to bat for. Like, so I was like, it's going to be KG. She just, like you had her on your podcast, like she is just Boilermaker through and through.
I mean, you see all the things she's posting on like social media and stuff. It's all Purdue all the time, just saying like how much it means to her to just be in that position. It's really cool to kind of look at from one's perspective. And then
not only from the competitive standpoint, but I remember she was, when I was there, she was like the all-time for 3-pointers made, and I passed that record. And I remember like she texted me, and like I looked, it's a player you like look up to, like, oh, it's Katie. Like, I remember her just texting me and saying, records are made to be broken. I'm so happy for you. Like, and that meant a lot. Like she's competitive, but she doesn't, at the same time, she doesn't let her ego get in front of her of being real and being a genuine person. Like I think there's a difference between being competitive and just having an ego where you're kind of not a nice, like you're just kind of not a nice person. She is, she's not, like she is genuine, but she also can get after you. Like, so I think that you need that fire and ice in somebody in that head coach role.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as Coach Versa, what do you think that her legacy is going to be? Obviously, she's had a massive amount of success at Purdue. All-time winningest coach. You could go down the list and talk about her records and things of that sort. But what do you think that her legacy will be?
Yeah, Coach V is the best. She is the epitome of, Purdue basketball. Missed basketball in Indiana, played at Purdue, head coach at Purdue. Like, and I remember watching one of her interviews. She said like she's lived out her dream. Like, so her she is going to go down as, she's a legend of Mackey, hands down. Sharon Versa, like that's not a name that's going to be forgotten at all. Like that is a name that when we're all gone from here, when 200 years, down the road, like Sharon Versa, people are going to be talking about Sharon Versa as a coach at Purdue. Hands down, like she's the best.
Yep. I would have to agree. I'm going to have to wrap this up, but thank you so much for coming on. I truly love what you and Jordan have built, the barn. I might have to come visit sometime, but all the best to you guys and your guys' family.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, and everybody listening, I'm an entrepreneur of business, so bring your kids up, or if you're a college player, we would love to train them. We got groups. We can even come to your school and come train. So and just to teach that compete mentality, and a lot of that comes from the blue collar mentality of Purdue. So thanks for having me on, though, Dub. Love what you're doing, and like I said on Thursday, Boiler support Boiler. So happy to come on anytime.
Yes, ma'am. Everybody check her out. I'll put your guys' links in the bio, so you guys can go sign up and get some training from two of the best.